Hi guys, it's me Byzantine in the old mirror. That's why you may see all these things all over the place. This is my old vintage mirror. And you waited long enough for a DIOR Poison review. And for those who are watching and don't know what I'm talking about, quite some time ago, I made a poll on Instagram and I asked you in one of the videos here on YouTube, which fragrance would you prefer me to review? I was asking about a fragrances in the purple bottles and I gave you choices, Alien by Mugler or Terry Mugler and DIOR Poison or Poison, and you voted for Poison, and here's finally me making it. But I want to tell you a couple of things, a couple of updates. So in a couple of months I'm going to move to London. This is the main update. Wish me good luck and cross your fingers for me because it's going to be a big change. I like changes. I always think that they are good but challenging. Yeah, but this is what I'm going to do. Plus, I have a random thought. Like, if you come to a designer and you ask the designer to make something for you, and the designer will of course make something in a one style, I mean the designer's style, and you expect a different style, it's very disrespectful. Really, I think it's very disrespectful, not only to the designer as a designer, but also to the designer as a person. Don't you think? It's like if you went to Chanel and asked for a Dior style. It is very rude, I think. This is my random thought. And let's move to the review. I will not talk any longer. So here's the sample I ordered from Notino, and it's a fragrance from 1985. Of course, this sample was not from the fragrance from 1985. I'm sure of that. And I could talk a lot about this fragrance in terms of the origins, the notes, yada yada yada, but it's definitely a fragrance that has a 80s vibe. It's a powerhouse. Actually, this one is not a powerhouse like this particular version reformulation. To me, it's not. It's first of all, my skin tames fragrance a lot, but I think that Dior Poison lost the guts somewhere in between reformulations, and I want to tell you why I don't have the full bottle. First of all, I'm not a huge fan of Dior fragrances. This is the first thing. There are only a few that I like. And that was Midnight Poison by Dior, and it's discontinued. It's Dolce Vita and Dune. These are only three that I like from Dior, and I do not like the Dior Poison. Actually, well, I can appreciate the fragrance, but it's not my vibe, actually. This is why I have only a sample, but I knew the fragrance before I ordered the sample, but I wanted to be fair. I wanted to give it a fair use. That's why it took so long. I waited for a colder weather to hit, and what this fragrance is all about. Of course, it's a very rich fragrance. It has plenty of notes. I'm sure it has less notes that it used to have in the 80s, but mainly to me, this is a fragrance all about tuberose coated with some incense, but very little incense, and some fruit. Of course, it's if you have this concoction, it gives you a little bit of plummy, grapey, more plummy sensation, and it has some resins because You know, you can smell the resins, but this poison is warm in feeling. It is warm in feeling to me. This is my impression. And in terms of lasting, I can smell it for a couple of hours, but as I said, I am not a huge fan of this fragrance. I am not a huge fan of tuberose fragrances. This one is not the one that I would like. This one is the fragrance that goes into the dried fruit rich direction, because tuberose can go a couple of directions. It can go quite animalic, it can go totally huge powerhouse floral, and it can go a little bit fruity, usually grapey. The grapey, more grapey than this one. Tuberose is in Yves Rocher's So Elixir Purple version. It's a very grapey tuberose, and this one goes to the more plummy direction. That's it's not my really it's not one of my favorite fragrances. I know that people love it, and you should definitely give it a go. You know, the bottle is very nice. It's purple and looks very expensive, and this scent also smells very expensive. Once I sprayed it in Sephora and I got a compliment for that. I'm pretty sure that it's a compliment getter if you use it sparingly, but this version, this new eau de toilette, is a something that probably you cannot overdose, but I would suggest you, because this fragrance is very rich. It's a vintage fragrance, and you can smell it a bit because, you know, right now, you know, the fragrances are not that rich in composition and not so deep, even though, as I told you, I'm pretty sure this fragrance lost some depth with reformulations. I would recommend you to spray it sparingly, and not directly on your neck as you usually spray your fragrances. I would suggest you to spray it on your back, on your chest, maybe in the crooks of your arms. This is my suggestion. If I had to suggest you a tuberose fragrance that I like, it's actually probably the only tuberose fragrance that I accept fully, is Coco by Chanel. I don't know why I like it. As I told you, I don't like cloves, I don't like tuberose, but in this fragrance, I love everything. And this is more spicy fragrance, but you know, it's magic. It's pure magic. But I'm not gonna talk about Chanel Coco, or Coco. Not Coco, Coco. You know, I talked about it a bit in my other Chanel fragrances review. So that would be all for today. I hope you enjoyed the review. Have a great day. Let me know if you're a Poison fan, and what do you think about other Dior fragrances. Fortunately, this one doesn't have this horrible Dior's vanilla, or it's more like vanillin to me than vanilla. I am not a huge fan of Dior ingredients, I would say, and that's why I don't like Hypnotic Poison or Dior Addict, even though I should, looking at the notes, I should like these fragrances, but something bothers me. I'm sure it's the ingredients, the type of ingredients. To me, Dior's vanillin in both of the fragrances I mentioned a minute ago or a second ago, they smell cheap, very cheap, even though Dior fragrances are very expensive. If I could recommend you Dior fragrances, they would be the ones that I mentioned at the beginning, which are Dolce Vita, Dune, and you can't get probably Midnight Poison, so forget about it. Okay, that's all for today. It's raining today, so bye.